Wow. Thank you, sir. So how many of you seen the PBS program Finding Your Roots? So we found them tonight. And how many of you, I graduated with a degree in anthropology? Any of you? Well, I audited a class, but, oh, okay, very good. Fact, the oldest known bones of humankind, and that's Cro-Magnon, Neanderthal, all the rest of them, are found where? That's a question, not Socratic. The oldest known bones of humans are found where? Yes. And what does that mean? It means, Betty, you're my mother. Michelle, you're my sister. You're my uncle. So we're all together. So thank you for calling us to be here tonight with your drums. What's really salient is that you're here tonight to witness, to launch Carla Bristol and to connect. And you can see she's had a marvelous roster of people. And I'm to the young man wearing legend in the making. And I believe that's true. So take it away.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Samaj Stubbins, and I am an ambassador at St. Pete Youth Farm with Miss Carla, as you can see. And I'd like to recite my poem that I made. It's called Beauties and Imperfections. Your beauty holds no limit. It is endless like the universe and infinite like time. Even the moon and stars are ashamed when faced with your beauty. But if I had to choose between the sun, the moon, or even the stars, I would choose you. It is the only light in the sky that shines the brightest. It is like a moth to a flame that I shall be eternally mesmerized by your warmth and mere existence, and I would give anything to hold you, even if it destroys me. But my heart is so full, I can hardly even call it my own. But if God were to give me eternal life, I would simply turn it down, for a life without you is no far worse than death itself. Even though your radiation is slowly reducing my time, I would still want to feel your warmth as if you were mine. But if I ever see a flaw of yours, I would say my eyes are the flawed ones. But if one day you were to vanish, I know I would find your eyes in the night and your light personality in the clouds as you float beyond my comprehensions. So she is not a painted picture, but so a masterpiece of her imperfections that makes her complete her imperfects, yet perfectly as a whole. And with her, I found my soul within. So even though the summer sun beams down and the heavy air fills my lungs, your smile still warms me up the most. Your smile is like a sunbeam that warms my heart, and in your eyes, I see a world where love and beauty would never depart. But in our darkest days, our thicks and thins, our hope is something we give ourselves. That is the meaning of inner strength. But if one day someone asked me if I would die now or simply live forever, I would choose to say die now, as if knowing my life would be completely useless, that my brightest star would lose its brightness. Thank you. Now I'm going to transition to give the mic up to Ms. Dr. Kanika Tomlin.
Thank you. How amazing. Let's give him another hand. So beautiful. So beautiful. The perfect start for this evening, where we are about to get into it with Miss Carla B. We are so excited about tonight. I am so happy that you all saw fit to be here. So excited to see so many
faces, familiar faces, friends, wonderful people, elected officials, Commissioners Renee Flowers and Charlie Justice. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for what you do every day. Wonderful neighbors and friends, Miss Debbie Rosebud, a mentor who raised me, came all the way from Ruskin. Because that's what we do. We show up when we see the names of those we love. So thank you for being here. Miss Teresa Jones, who is a pillar in our community. All of the people who need to be here to make this night complete are here. And we are so happy about it. I'm especially happy to see two of my team members here, Julie Rocco and Dr. Susie Patterson, who work with me at the Foundation for a Healthy St. Pete, where I'm very fortunate to serve as president and CEO. And we are very privileged every day to work to advance health equity through the improvement and elevation of racial equity here in our community. It's important work. You guys are champions. Thank you for what you do. All right. We're about to get into it. Seriously, I'm going to ask you a couple of things, though. I want everybody to understand that we are recording for a podcast. Hey, Brother, listen. Brother John, elected official, city council member, Brother John. But I need you, Brother John Muhammad, let me be proper and official with that, Tondu. But I need you to understand that before he was your city councilman, he was my classmate at the Boca Ciega High School home team. So good to see you. We are recording. Please be aware of that. Please participate. We have a QR code for you to submit your questions, which may be the most exciting part of our evening. We very much look forward to that. And also, please silence your phones so that we can make sure that we are having a seamless evening that has no interruption, except those that you choose to do as we talk to Miss Carla Bristol. Please join me. So look at the luminaries that drape either side of this stage that you have gathered together through this wonderful work. It is so inspiring.
Thank you.
So huge. And we are so excited and so grateful. Your podcast is all about connections and connectivity.
Yes.
And so we will spend a lot of time tonight in conversational fashion talking about connection, the importance of it. And we all know Carla, right? Everybody has a Carla story. I was talking about that with a neighbor a little earlier. We all should be so fortunate to be caught up in the web. That is Carla Bristol. Right?
Wow.
Right. That's right. There is a thread, this common thread of connectivity. So tonight we are going to lovingly, gently pull on that thread so that we might emerge the sparkling spool that shines so brightly underneath. Carla Bristol. So I need you to know, as a former journalist, I can tell you that your questions are on point and your style is inspiring. And I'm going to model your style a bit.
Wow, thank you.
We're going to spend some time getting to know the interviewer. The interviewer will be interviewed. Are you nervous?
I'm not nervous at all.
Of course you're not. There is no need to be nervous yet. Or at all. So I've been listening to you. I've checked out these podcasts, listening to you tell our story, sharing our history, asking our questions, and requiring our answers. I've been listening very closely. And you always open with a question to your guests. You know where I'm going. Let's make sure everybody here with us, everybody here in our audience does as well. You ask your guests to introduce him or herself, themselves, as some other person, usually of note, or introduce themselves as another person would. For example, you asked our Honorable Mayor Welch to introduce himself as Prince would. That was fun. You asked the talented Zulu painter to introduce himself in the way Miles Davis would introduce him. And he said 2 words, community and unity, the epitome of connection. Mr. Bob Devin Jones, Sir Bob Devin Jones, you asked to introduce himself as James Baldwin.
Yes.
I love that. And the magnificent Mother Gwendolyn Reese. You called her your community mom. That resonates with me very much, and that we share connection. You asked her to tell us who she is as Tina Turner or Maya Angelou. And I have to tell you, I knew it when you were talking to Mother Gwen that you would call Mother Maya. So this device that you have developed is altogether excellent. And now you get the privilege of answering your own question for the good people who have gathered here so that they may know more about the way you connect. So tell us, Carla Bristol, if you were being introduced by your maternal ancestor, the first woman in your bloodline from the continent to cross the Middle Passage and come to your more recent homeland of Guyana, how would she introduce you? This ancestor you do not know the name. Those who came to play may rest over there. We came to work.
Okay. So first and foremost, this is exactly why I wanted you to be the person to interview me, because I knew you would be someone who would challenge me. And so thinking about my ancestry, I have all these, you use the word threads, these threads that I've noticed over the years, whether it's I'm buying machinery for wood and learning that my grandfather made furniture, right? Sewing, picking up a sewing machine, teaching myself how to sew, and realizing that my great aunt was a seamstress, and there's many seamstresses throughout my family. But I will say that one of the things that would be said about me is just my absolute love for community, my children, and they're here. My son Afai is here, and my daughter Jay. Hey, Fox.
Hello, beautiful babies.
My love for my children. There's a special love that I have for seniors, and a special love that I have for the houseless population. So I'm just a caring, loving, regular person that has the pleasure and the joy of being here in St. Petersburg for 27 years, and being somebody that had the strong desire to experience life the way that I would want to influence my children to influence life.
That's beautiful. We're going to talk about that a little more a little later.
Sure.
Thank you for that sharing. It's very, very special. And I started with discussion of our continent and our shared ancestral home with deep reason and purpose. It's the source of one of our most treasured connections between you and me.
Yeah.
This basket, and you brought it here.
Yep, I did.
Can you show everybody who's gathered here with us? Can you all see it? In 2017, I was very blessed to travel to Africa, travel to 4 countries in Africa. And I was in Narok, Kenya, visiting in a village, and the chief of the village served as our translator and took us to a market where the entirety of the village is run by the microeconomics of the women of the village, and the entire economic infrastructure is born of these crafts that they make. And she told me, the woman who made this basket or sold this basket told me that it was a vessel that will be made pure by all the love that it will hold and all of the goodness that will pour from it. And in that moment, as she told me that, I got such a strong sense and feeling and vision for Carla Bristol that this was a basket I needed to buy and bring to her.
And you did. And it endeared me to you because I kept saying, I've been on vacation before. You have a limited amount of space. And I think I've shared the story so many times about how the deputy mayor of our city went on a personal vacation and brought me back a gift. And that was exceptionally special because, I'm just being Carla, living my Carla life, doing what Carla does. And so for someone, it's like extremely meaningful for someone to be traveling on vacation in their personal time to then say, wow, this connects me to someone from where I live. That's not a family member. That's not a best friend. You've never been to my home. I've never been to your home. But in the modern language, it definitely made me feel seen for the work that I do naturally.
Connection across continents. That basket traveled with me across this Middle Passage that our ancestors traveled to you in recognition of that work. And it was
Thank
a
you.
calling, so very clear. And I know that you've had like experiences where you hear that clarion crystal call
Yes.
from source, from the ancestors, from the universe, wherever that happens. Tell us a little bit about that and how that moves you in your work day to day.
So I definitely have a sense constantly that, first of all, even in my corporate life, I would tell people this all the time. I would say, I'm the most blessed person I know. And it may seem, I don't know, arrogant, but I've always felt extremely, exceptionally blessed, because I think things that would make other people curl up, ball up, fall down, trip, I have this, I have the ability to stand in the midst of things that would typically cause someone to not stand. So it's one of the reasons, or one of the ways that I know that I am exceptionally blessed. It's why I was able to take the leap and say, I want to do what I'd rather be doing. I'm not going to wait another year. I don't want to be in my 60s to get off the baby bottle that I call corporate America. I want my children to have, I'm defining myself as the 11-year-old that came to America. And so I felt that a lot of the attributes that you guys get to experience today came with me as an 11-year-old from Guyana. So I kept thinking, am I doing my children a disservice by not giving them a great sense of community here in America, when I know it was part of what defined who I am today?
We must model that bold courage. We hope that all our children will show and display in so many ways, and you've done that. So we are talking about Carla Bristol before Carla Bristol was here in St. Pete, but our listeners may not all know exactly what you're referencing. So tell us a little bit about your corporate background and the previous chapter before the page turned.
See, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I moved to New York at the age of 11. My family migrated to New York, as many in the Caribbean do, and went to school in New York, in Brooklyn. I mean, I was still the same person when I started my corporate career. I would, at lunchtime, I would go feed the houseless. I would encourage my coworkers to come with me. If they didn't come, it's highly unlikely the friendships will continue. I had a corporate workplace program in my office that did work with high school teens and younger teens, and so that I think that was one of the first. I'm the woman who would, if I saw you on the street, rather than give you food, I would ask you to join me to eat. And so all of my friends thought I was crazy, because I would show up looking just like this and say, hey, such and such will be joining us, because they were out in front of my house trying to shovel snow and ask for money. And I said, what do you need money for? To buy food? Well, I'm going to breakfast. Come join me. And it would seem different, but I mean, that's just how I occurred then and now. And so I was in global sales. I've won trips to places like Monte Carlo and to Hawaii and other places as a top salesperson. But I kept hosting something in my home called Success Brunch for Women. And I was very intentional about having a diverse group of women come into my home free of charge. And I would only ask one question: what would you rather be doing? And so I just remember women always thinking, like, why is she doing this? Why, she's not charging us. Keynote speakers, brunch, everything. And I realized I wasn't doing it for them. I was doing it for myself. It was the push that I needed. I was asking myself, if you weren't doing this, if this big house, is that what you value? Like, what are your real values? And that wasn't the thing I valued the most. And so there's a lot of women that I've met, and you always hear what they would have, could have, should have done. And you hear them talk about it in their 70s, in their 60s. But it was always, and part of that was tied back to my own mother saying, well, if I didn't have you two daughters, I would be doing this. And so I didn't want any excuses for not doing whatever it is I'm called to do. So in 2014, I left corporate America because I was doing advocacy work with the Woodson Museum. And as I was doing all that advocacy work, I kept asking myself, what is it that's the most important thing to you about, because I don't fight for the sake of fighting. That's just not who I am. And what was most important to me was that the kids in Jordan Park, if this museum were to go away, I wanted them to have access to the same caliber of art that my own children have access to. I wanted to make that something normal. I was looking at a city that was growing with the arts, but not as many opportunities for African American artists. And so I decided to be self-funded and open up an art gallery that featured art from the African diaspora. And I mean, I opened the doors and young people would just hang out. And that's what I wanted. I wanted them to hang out in the gallery because I wanted them to gain the experience about art collecting. And I wanted, if they were ever on Central Avenue and walked into a space, they would have a sense that, oh, you know, in my neighborhood, we have a fine art gallery. I hang out there all the time. So I wanted to cultivate that because the history in St. Petersburg or in South St. Petersburg was so rich for me. And the more I heard about it, I was hearing about it as something in the past. And I kept saying, well, what do you have control over? So I felt like this was my one little piece of how I can control the fabric for the future. So the kids could have their own story, you know, the Black Arts Festival, their own story in the middle of the neighborhood, their own story. And people would say, but why are you having, you should be having it at, I think they said the end of the month. That's when the check comes. I'm like, art it's about disposable income. It's about experiencing this visual appetite that we all get to experience today. No one checks your purse or your wallet when you enter any department store. So why would it be about your ability to afford it? You should still have access to it. So access and opportunity, you hear me talk about throughout all the work I do.
Access and opportunity. I mean, what you're saying in the space that we're enveloped now is made so beautiful by the wonderful, inspired art of Jabari Reed, who is with us here tonight and has been a guest on your podcast. Yes, the very best of what St. Petersburg has to offer. And it's so important what you say. When we think about whether we can afford art, we cannot afford to not experience art. So let that always drive us in our seeking out of that experience. So you wear the resilience and courage and strength of living your truth like a crown. And we all see you, Queen. It's as though you have lived many lifetimes in this very, very brief period. And I call it brief because we're contemporaries. We're about the same age, so you know. But this is a special time for women our age, particularly Black women, particularly Black women in St. Pete.
Facts.
There is a natural mystic in the air. Some wonderful things are happening. I want to give a shout out to Nikki Gaskin Capehart,
Yes.
who was just named yesterday
Yes.
as the president and chief executive officer of the Pinellas County Urban League, and she will now be positioned to do the work she's been doing for 30 years, just like you, all of us who are, 5 years to the left or right of 50, have been working for 30 years to make these things transpire and unfold. So, special time. You know what else is 50? Hip hop.
Yeah.
Yes, hip hop. Hip hop. So, when I think about life, hip hop, you don't stop. I rock it to the bang bang boogie, the up jump the boogie, to the rhythm of the boogie to beat. But as you read my mind,
And the one you like, and I like to say hello. And they're rocking to the red and the brown, the purple and yellow.
But check it out now.
Bang, bang.
St. Pete. And just in case anybody was wondering about that welcome interruption. Thank you, Matsura, my love. So when I think about life and our journey, I think about it often. I think about my life in a soundtrack, you know, a playlist of the songs that help tell the story of where I've been and where I hope to go and what was happening in my life. So I'm going to ask you to share with us your playlist, the soundtrack of your life in these 5 decades. And I want you to give some thought to it. You know, a song, a single song in the 70s, 80s, 90s, thousands, and now that tells the story of your life. But before we go there, because I want you to give some thought to it.
Yeah,
that's a
gift.
critical thinking question.
That's a gift question right there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Look, let me be frank with you. All I've been thinking about is what you're going to get to hear at the end of this, which is my absolute favorite music. It's the music that picks me up. It's the piece of me that's a cultural piece that probably most of you don't get to share with me often enough. Is I'm a soca junkie.
Oh,
So,
okay.
And yeah, I'm a soca junkie. And what that means is that you know me at this level, and some people know me at this level. But when I hear soca music, which you'll get to hear at the end of this interview, I'm on like a level, and I don't stop. It's like it's something that energizes me because it's no different. The way I would say it in corporate America was, I would literally talk to whomever I'm reporting to, and I would say, "Hey, St. Pete has a carnival every year, and I will be there. So there's nothing that's going to interrupt me from being at this carnival. I can't believe I moved to a city that has a carnival." And the way I would describe it to them was, if you lived in Jamaica and they were having American Day, this is what it translates to. So it's been heartbreaking to not have that in our city, and that's something I really want to advocate for. I'm going to go to Miami for Carnival this year. New York has like hundreds of millions of dollars in a carnival that just happened. So it's why I need to like get some of that. And I want to invite you to get some of that with me, because it is just all culture on blast nonstop. So that's what I do. That's what it is.
That's awesome. Where culture and community collide is where Carla B will take us.
Yes.
That's awesome. I wanted to talk a little bit about migration, and how we come to call a place our own. Because as I was thinking about connection and the many ways that we are connected and how our journeys have intersected,
Yes.
And the places that they are the same and the places that they've been made different, all those thoughts lead me back to this place, this space, this city that we love. And specifically, our affinity, allegiance, and alliance with South St. Petersburg, this community that is made stronger by the real work that you and I and so many others are committed to do every day.
Facts.
Yes. So how did you come to know that this corner of the community in this wide world of which you've traveled so many places was the place where you were supposed to be?
Let's just be honest. This is the last place in the world that I thought I would ever be. My vision of Florida was swamps and seniors. I was all of 27 years old living in New York, and we had a snowstorm that was 30 inches. And again, I'm from the Caribbean, so cold and me don't go together. So, when we were thinking about where would we go, I didn't want to go to Miami. I thought it would be New York with some beautiful water. And but honestly, visiting St. Pete, the sales pitch is drive over the Howard Franklin Bridge just one time. That's all you need to fall in love with this place because I was used to suspended bridges, and here's this panoramic view of the water, and there's so much power in the water. So when I saw that, and I came here, and then, you know, I moved here August 15th of 1996, and my son was born on October 13th of 1996.
Wow.
So meaning but after being here for 1 year, I moved back to New York. I lasted 6 weeks.
Wow.
I just simply didn't like it as a mother. I mean, Carla before motherhood, yes, but as a mother, I loved having access to my child at lunchtime. Like I could drive over there, do that, get back to work. I loved all of that. So, I mean, it just became that this is it. This is where I'm putting the anchor down, and I'm going to stay for a while. And it doesn't matter where I go. I will, you know, put roots down. I will make it better just by being there. And the only thing I can compare it to is when I closed Gallery 909 on 22nd Street. And everybody said, "Oh, you can't close it." And it was so important to them. And it was when I was able to share with people that spaces does not define people. People define spaces. So I'm the it wherever I be. And now I'm here with all of you. So I'm grateful for that.
Oh, that's beautiful. Say it one more time. Spaces.
So, you know, I mean, that's my truth. So, for example, it doesn't matter if it's, you know, I remember when people called me about the youth farm. I'm like, I don't do farming. I don't do agriculture. I don't belong to any. That's not what I do. And but they were like, Carla, you're the person. I'm like, how? I don't know. I don't do farming. I love young people. I mean, I had young people were the people running my Black Arts Festival and making money doing it. I trusted them with the operations. So when it came time for the youth farm, I could tell you that corporate Carla sat down there, and I was like, look, in my corporate suit, and for the most part, I've been running around here like a mop head, right? Comfortable as can be, just as comfortable as can be in my cowgirl boots. And first thing I said is, hey, if you were seeing me tomorrow, I would have on some cowgirl boots, and my hair wouldn't be pulled back the way it is for this interview. I don't garden. I don't belong to garden clubs. That's not what I do on my weekends. But the reason why you would hire me is because I would provide immediate credibility to this work. And that was my commitment. And that's what I've delivered on. I think I'm someone that if I give you my word, like you could take it to the bank, it won't bounce on you. And so in turn, that's what I look for in friendships and relationships is the importance. And if we're back to hip hop, my word is my bond.
Word is bond. Your work is what is pouring out of that vessel, you know, in so many ways every day. Before we leave place, you know, because I thought about this a lot and really reflected on it. We are definitely connected in a common love for this place. We come to it in such a different way.
Yeah.
You know, I have an inherited sense of love for this place. My great-great-grandmother came here. This is what I know. This is all I know. The dirt of this place is in my DNA, right? Its sand is in my cells. And I think about what must it be like to choose a new place and impact it in a way that your great-great-grandchildren would choose to be there. What do you think we need to do in this time, all of us, to build the type of place that our great-great-grandchildren would choose it as their home?
So I think we first need to discover a love for ourselves. I think as a Black woman, and there's a pair of earrings I have, it says Black mixed with Black. And I talked about the Black Arts Festival, and people kept saying, you can't call it the Black Arts Festival. I'm like, but that's what it is. That's the umbrella that I fall under. So when I show up in a space, nobody is asking me or looking at me and saying, you're Portuguese and you're Indian and you're African. I'm a Black woman. When I experience racism, and I've experienced it multiple times here in St. Pete, it's not a when was the last time, it's often times. And I normally look at one basis, and I always say, what would be the basis for that? So I'm typically thinking, what would be the basis for someone treating me in this way? And there's only one answer that comes up every single time. It's the color of my skin. And so love, I think if we learn to love ourselves in the truest ways, because we all carry baggage from place to place with us. And some of us may empty out parts of the baggage, and some of us never unpack. And the way we are existing with each other, how we treat each other, how we speak to each other, how we honor each other is all based on whatever is still in that bag. And so I would ask us to do more work on self-discovery. And then if you love yourself, then you will love your neighbor. And if you love your neighbor, then you will love your family. You love your neighbor, and you love your community. You love your city. But the special love that I have for South St. Pete, and I tell everybody, I make no excuses for it. I'm South St. Pete centric because that's where the need is. And so, I mean, I remember with the city when we had the urban, director Nikki Gaskin-Capar was head of urban affairs. And I kept saying, are we not trusting the rest of the city to know that everywhere else has been worked on, this is where the work needs to be done? It should be such a broad painted picture that this place needs help, but the vibration for me as a Black woman in South St. Pete gives me a sense of belonging. I love the vibration. And so I realize everything I want to do, where I go, how it occurs, what you see, men sitting under the tree talking. I'd never seen that. But if you go all the way back to Africa, this is exactly what it is.
That's exactly
so the
right.
culture, the heritage, the history, it resides there, and it's what I'm most connected to.
It is who we are.
Mhm.
Yes, so beautiful. So many people in our community are moved by your work, appreciative of your work, and the way that you connect us. I see your work most meaningfully manifest, as I see it, in your work with our young people, doing extraordinary things to really pour into them all of that sense of self-care and value that you just articulated. If you haven't had a chance to visit the St. Pete Youth Farm or see Carla at work with our young people, I really, really encourage all of you who are here, encourage everyone who's listening to engage with Carla around that space, because that is where the difference is being made in a very real way. So let's just talk for a minute about the importance of focusing on our young people and the difference we can make there, and why you put so much emphasis and effort into that work.
So I think, first of all, I was hired to solve an issue, and the issue was looked at as a term I don't repeat often, but as food deserts and so on and so forth. And so my belief is that that is something that does exist somewhere, not here. Here, what we have the issue with is access and opportunity. And the reason I know is that the evidence is clear. We were given 0.83 acres of land to do agriculture work. It's not a desert. Food is growing, trees are growing, and teens are growing. So we were given that access and the opportunity to do it. And so we've stepped into doing the work. But when it comes to our young people, I think about, what I had and what I have to offer. And I mean, I just bring the same corporate mindset to the work I do. It's like there isn't Carla A and Carla A, my middle initial is the A, but it's the same person in a different space. And what's important for me is that I transfer all of the knowledge, all of the wisdom, all of the acumen that's important for not just surviving, but thriving to our young people. And with the mindset that they may not get it today. I don't need them to get it today. I just need them to get it, because once they got it, they're good. And so everything we do, my text message to Nikki that she probably didn't get is she's teaching our young people at no cost to us about emotional intelligence. And I told them, I said, I just started learning this. So can you imagine if I give you access to this now, where our young people will be compared to where we are? So I think we need to stop being afraid to provide access to our young people. We need to stop not trusting our young people. We need to learn from our young people and just make them feel. So the poem that Samaj read today was an assignment that I provided because we had because of the hurricane. I said, hey, we're not going to work. You're not going to get paid. But if you guys want, if you wrote an article or a poem, guess what I will do? I will ensure that that is published. And for that, we will compensate you. And so Samaj turned in, and I said, I need 500 words. That is what I said.
She said what she said.
I said, I need 500 words. I said, but if you write a poem, I'll value that creativity. So you can make it 300 words, turn in 2 for 300, whatever. And so he actually wrote 2 poems. But when he read that poem to me, I definitely did a checks and balance with him. I was like, you wrote that? I've heard some poems in my day, but this is like, And this is his second time publicly reading. And for the record, he is being paid to read. He didn't do this as a favor to me. Meaning I am paying him for this act. But, he read at Tumbelow. He's now reading here tonight. I've already called the poet laureate for our city to say, we were supposed to do some work together, but I especially want you to do some work for me with this person. I've already said that Bob is at the Artisan. I'm going to need to get this published. Bob is hearing it now. But the point is that I'm going to go to bat every single day for the young people that I work with. And if we had a motto, it would be, that excellence is our motto. So I don't care if you're late to work. If I look over there, I'd say, what do I expect? I expect you to be running. I don't expect you to casually walk up if you're late. But these are the things that will help our young people thrive in other environments.
Carla, you talked about this. That's just so powerful, right? And it's real. Mm-hmm. And we see it, and it's lessons people taught to us that helped us get to where we are, no doubt, right? You talked about this construct when we last sat down together in a way that really resonated with me, and that for our young people, we need to help them amass confidence as currency so that when they show up in underrepresented places, and they are pioneering the space in which they are representing so many who have like dreams, they can transact in an empowered way that reinforces their right to be there. And that is so important.
Thank you.
So I just thank you for that wisdom, and thank you for the way you are living that every day with the young people who call this community home. It is so important. We're going to get to some questions in just a minute, right? Is it about time?
Yeah. Who has the question list? I trust everybody has submitted their questions already. And I'll tell you, there's a game that I've played since I was 19 or so called the Ungame. And I've played it with my family. I've played it on trips. I've played it on vacations. And I played it with our young people at the farm. And it's a human behavioral game. And so I would say, hey, it's lunchtime. Who wants to play this game? And over the summer. And so several gathered around with me. And I'll tell you some of the things that came out. One that came out was a young person asked me, do you ever regret doing this job? When else would you have a space where a young person could feel free to ask you a question like that? So then it was my moment to say, I have to tell you that before I ever took this job, I had to know that this is where I was going to be. There's no amount of money that would move me from here until one of you decide that you want to take over. Please and thank you. But, to make sure that that there's clarity in my commitments, because disappointment has come too often for young people in our community. So my job is to ensure that I am carrying their voices and the voice of the community every day in the work that I do.
Great. As we get ready for the questions, I'll ask you my final question.
Sure.
And you've alluded to much of it already. There's just so much frustration with the world and the way things are unfolding, particularly here in our home state of Florida. I mentioned earlier, I have the privilege of working on this every day. It is my job. You work on this every day. It is your job. But we all feel frustrated.
Yes.
What's your guidance for those who are listening, for those who are here today, this is not their profession? They are not elected officials. They are not privileged to work in this space to advance equity and those things that make a difference, but they care and they want to make a difference. What can we all do in our spaces, in our places, outside of our professions to help impact the way things are unfolding in our community, in our state, in our world?
So I'm glad you asked me, because I'm the right person to ask. No, I'm just kidding. So, no question, we have work to do. I talk about this often, and I'm very involved in the clear understanding that if we put you there, we can remove you from there. So the first thing we need to do is to step up, and we have to not only us vote, because it is a democracy when last I checked. So because this is a democratic system, it's important that we not become discouraged and disconnected from the system, but we become even more involved in the system so we can create the change that we want to see. And the first thing I would say is really find people, because at the end of the day, everybody says, well, you should be elected. I don't want to be an elected official. That is not my calling. My calling is to support those who I believe embrace the values that are important to me, and the people that look like me who may not either have the acumen or the interest of speaking it out loud. And so find those people and find ways to support them. When I was hosting the success brunches at my home, I had a brand called BABE. It means be a blessing every day. So every day I believe we're given an opportunity to be a blessing to someone else. A lot of times it's the way I give hugs to people. That's the way I'm blessing people. The direct eye contact I make if the person is currently suffering, maybe not have a place to live. But I think we need to take those people who that's their goals, and we have several of them in this room, right? Right? So thank you, Renee, for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie, for your service.
Yes,
thank you, Brother John, who resisted for years.
The calling. The calling.
This was our common language. Thank you for answering the calling. We need you, and we need more of you in those seats until we are able to shift and create our change, the change that we want to see. We can't be discouraged. We have to actually be ignited to get it done and to do it together. And if you don't know how to do it, ask me, I'll tell you. I'm involved. I'm involved in those ways.
That's wonderful. All right, we got some questions. I think I lost my screen, but I remember what they are. What keeps you motivated?
I just think it's who I am. I think I wake up motivated. I go to sleep motivated. I just, I think it's that whole not acknowledging that time is not infinite, right? And, what do I want to be said about me? What do I want to be known for? Do I want to be known for wasting time or getting things done? If you start asking these young people over there or Miss Miriam, they'll tell you, one of my things, it don't take all day to do nothing. Why why are we still waiting to get this done? What's the thing, right? Let's get it done and move to the next thing that still has to be done. And so I think I'm motivated by the sheer amount of the breadth of the work that we have to do. And I think if we all woke up and said there's work to be done today that wasn't centered around you, especially, I think the love for community, that motivates me for sure.
This is an interesting question from the audience.
Mm.
Were you always shy?
That question was asked by Sandy Merritt.
Do we laugh because you're not shy?
Yeah, I'm the most open, private person you'll ever meet.
It's great. It's great. Okay, how do you stay consistent, or any advice for those who are looking
I
to
think,
demonstrate consistency?
sure, figure out what you value. Once you figure out what you value, then, I used to always, and I mean, this is like a woman in my 20s, I would talk about life like a pie. I would tell people, well, what's in your pie and what are you giving the most amount of time to in your pie, and make sure that that aligns with what you value. So, because everybody knows, I don't like pie per se, but I like sweets. So, there's slivers in there of varying things, and just make sure. So family is in my pie, right? Some type of meditation or spirituality is in my pie. Connecting with, a loved one or whatever in my pie. But like literally doing community work is in my pie. So that's where I put my time and my energy towards. And then the other stuff that's going to be taking away from those things that I value, right? I don't value the big house. I've had it. I've done it. I don't value the expensive vacations. I've had it. I've done it. I value people. I value impact of work. I don't want to just sit here churning butter and never get butter. If I churn, I expect to get butter because I've put in the work for butter. Otherwise, I'm going to stop and change and do something different. So that would be my advice. Figure out what you value and make sure that what you're doing aligns with what it is that you value.
Very good. And this final question really illustrates how much your audience just wants to understand you.
Lord.
It's a question. It's a beautiful question. Your favorite childhood memory?
So one of my favorite childhood memories for sure was a doll that I got from when my grandfather or my uncles, one of my uncles was a really big boxer, and my dad was a boxer also. But what would happen is, when they came to America and they came back home, so I loved peanut butter and jelly, but it was a doll that I got with a plaid dress during the holiday. And she was a very tall doll, and she was a very brown doll. So it was interesting to me coming here to the States and because of course I grew up in a country where a lot of people look like me, or they are East Indian, etc. So I remember the first time a neighbor gave my daughter, well, she gave it to me for my daughter. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to have a white doll for my daughter. That's not going to happen. She said, but my children have black dolls. So why would you not allow your daughter to have a white doll? And I said, because in this country, the images of beauty that has been portrayed don't look like me. So in my home, it's important for me to control those images because all the way out there, what she is going to encounter is something different. So I'm not going to invite it into my home. But yeah, it was that black doll, and being a beautiful black child is getting this beautiful black doll.
Every little black girl remembers
the first,
that beautiful black doll.
Yes.
That helps us understand how beautiful we are, for sure, for sure. All right, Miss Carla. Julie Rocco, who's on our team, has taught our team at the foundation something very important, that we must earn our opinion. Very important.
I think is one of the most profound things I've ever really internalized. And we do that with our work. And you interview people and ask tough questions.
Yes.
Critical questions.
Yes.
That not only reflect on where our community has gone, but helps to shape the trajectory for where we may go. Helps cast the height of the possibilities to which we aspire. And tonight, you earned that work to launch this podcast and continue to ask those questions. So thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
And thank you for your celebration of community and unity and this common thread and the importance of collective empowerment, while always elevating, amplifying, and lifting the criticality of our individual gifts and who we are, and the need to celebrate that and without apology and without exception. As I was preparing for tonight, I thought a lot about this and that gift that you bring to our community. And I thought of a Khalil Gibran quote from the Prophet that says, as it relates, this is how I learn from you and how we move through our community and how we should move through our world. And it says, let there be spaces in our togetherness, and let the winds of the heavens dance between us. Love one another, but make not a bond of love. Let it rather be a moving sea between the shores of our souls. So let it be a moving sea.
That was so needed for me. Thank you. That was for me. I would like to thank all of you for joining us. As I decided to do this podcast, it's a lot of times I think people they look at me and they look at themselves and they say, well, she's connected, and as if I went to school with any of these people, or I was raised in the same neighborhood, and really what I wanted to do, because nothing that's a gift to me do I want to take with me as I'm wrapped, hopefully, just in fabric and placed in the ground. I want to leave it here with everyone. So it was important for me to share, and I'm hopeful that through the podcast, what you learn is that the ability to connect with people is in all of us. There is no secret sauce, right? Because we don't belong to the same sorority. I don't belong to a sorority. We don't go to the same church, synagogue, mosque. We do not. But we have more in common all the time than not in common. And I guarantee you, it doesn't matter who it is or what other side of the discussion they're on with me, I can find a commonality. So these interviews is essentially, and that's why I asked that question of, do you remember how we first connected? Because oftentimes it's not the way you think it is. It's just simply because the person feels seen, because you have something in common. So I really want you guys to take that with you. I also want to say I am beyond grateful that on a Friday night when you could be anywhere else, that you're choosing to be here for this intimate listening launch, 24 down, 100 or so more to go.